The village of Nkyer was known for its peace. Tall baobab trees stood like silent guardians around the red clay houses. At sunrise, women swept their compounds while men prepared for the farms. Children's laughter usually filled the air. But in one house near the edge of the village, laughter had been missing for many years. That was Kofi's house. Kofi was a respected man. Strong hands, calm voice, wise eyes. Years ago he had buried his wife Adwoa after a sudden illness. Since that day something inside him had gone quiet. He spoke less. He smiled less. He worked hard and raised his daughter alone. The villagers admired him. They said he was faithful to his late wife's memory. They said he was strong. But as the seasons passed, the elders began to murmur. A man should not live alone forever. His daughter needs a mother. And so, after many years of grief, Kofi agreed to remarry. Her name was Amma. Amma came from a neighboring village. She was young, with bright eyes and careful steps. On the day she entered Nkyer as a bride, women ululated softly while men nodded in approval. She bowed respectfully to the elders. She greeted everyone with humility. Outwardly she looked confident. Inside her heart trembled. She knew she was stepping into a home where another woman had once ruled with love and strength. She had heard stories about Adwoa, how kind she was, how wise she was, how she kept her household united. Amma wondered if she would ever be enough. Standing near the doorway that day was Abina, Kofi's daughter. Abina was no longer a small child. She was quiet, tall for her age, and carried herself with dignity. Her eyes were deep and watchful. When Amma approached her, Abina bowed slightly in greeting. "Welcome," she said softly. Her voice was polite, but her face held no warmth. Abina loved her father deeply, and she loved her late mother's memory even more. To her the house still belonged to Adwoa. Every cooking pot, every woven mat, every corner of the compound held her mother's spirit. Now another woman would sleep in her mother's room. That truth settled heavily in her chest. From the first evening the air in the house felt different. Amma tried to help with cooking. She asked Abina where things were kept. Abina answered, but briefly. She did not linger. She did not smile. The village women watched closely in the following days. They visited often, pretending to welcome Amma but truly measuring her. Adwoa used to grind the millet before sunrise, one woman said casually. Adwoa's soup was famous, another added. Amma laughed lightly each time. But each comparison felt like a small cut. She began waking earlier, cooking longer, cleaning harder. She wanted to prove herself. Meanwhile, someone else began visiting the house more often. He was Amma's cousin, smooth-talking, always smiling. He offered to help Kofi with farm matters and business deals. He said he only wanted to support his cousin in her new home. At first, his visit seemed harmless, but Abina noticed things. She noticed how Ya's eyes lingered too long on the storage hut where grain and money were kept. She noticed how he asked questions about land boundaries and harvest profits. She noticed how he praised Amma loudly in front of others but whispered to her in corners. Abina felt something was wrong. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, Abina found Amma sitting alone outside, washing vegetables. Carefully, respectfully she spoke. She said Ya asked too many questions. She said he stayed too long when her father was away. She said something about him did not feel right. Amma's hands froze in the water. For a moment, doubt flickered in her mind. But then another thought came. Of course the girl would not like anyone from her side of the family. Of course she would try to create distance. Amma forced a small smile. You must not misunderstand kindness, she replied gently. Ya only wants to help. Abina wanted to say more. She wanted to explain the uneasy feeling in her chest. But she saw the wall already rising in Amma's eyes. So she stepped back. That night, Amma lay beside Kofi, staring at the roof. Was Abina jealous? Was she trying to protect her mother's place? The questions troubled her. Outside, the wind began to rise. It moved through the trees with a low warning sound. The sky, once clear, slowly filled with dark clouds gathering in silence. Inside that house, something unseen had already begun to shift. And neither woman understood how dangerous that small moment of dismissal would become. The days that followed were heavy with effort. Amma woke before the first rooster crowed. She swept the compound in the dark. She fetched water before the other women reached the stream. She cooked carefully, measuring every spice, stirring every pot as if her life depended on it. She wanted the village to accept her. She wanted Kofi to look at her with pride. Most of all, she wanted to silence the voice inside her that whispered, "You will never be like the first wife." But the whispers outside were louder. At the well, women spoke softly but not softly enough. Adwoa's yam porridge was thick and rich. Adwoa never needed help from her relatives. Amma felt the words press against her chest like stones. She smiled politely and lowered her eyes, but her heart burned. Back at home, she tried harder. She arranged the house differently. She embroidered new cloths. She tried to introduce small changes, hoping to make the space her own. Abina noticed every change. She said nothing at first. She only watched. Meanwhile, Ya's visits became more frequent. He arrived in the afternoons when Kofi was at the farm. He brought stories, laughter, and advice. He praised Amma in ways that made her feel seen. "You are stronger than they know," he would say. "Do not let anyone make you feel small." His words wrapped around her like comfort. But his eyes were always calculating. Abina saw it again, the long stares at the storage hut, the quiet counting of bags of grain, the way he asked about how much the harvest had earned. One evening, Abina gathered her courage again. She found Amma grinding pepper behind the house. The sun was low, and smoke from nearby cooking fires filled the air. Abina spoke calmly. She explained that Ya had been measuring the grain when no one asked him to. She said she had seen him hide a small pouch inside his cloth. Amma's jaw tightened. This was not the first time. To Amma it now sounded like constant complaints, like stubborn resistance. "Why do you watch him so closely?" Amma asked, her voice cool. Abina hesitated. "Because this house is my father's." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Amma felt them like an accusation. This house is my father's. Was she being reminded that she did not truly belong? That night, Ya spoke softly to Amma while they sat outside. He told her Abina did not respect her. He said the girl still saw her as an outsider. He said young girls can be clever and dangerous when they feel threatened. "Be careful," he warned gently. "She may try to turn your husband against you." The idea slipped into Amma's mind like poison in water. Slowly, quietly, small misunderstandings began to grow. If Abina forgot to greet Amma in the morning, it felt intentional. If she remained silent during meals, it felt like disapproval. If Kofi defended his daughter even slightly, Amma's heart tightened. She began to feel alone in her own marriage. She wanted peace. She wanted to be loved without comparison. But instead she felt watched, judged, measured. Inside her, fear began to turn into suspicion. Abina tried once more. This time her voice carried urgency. She explained clearly that money from the harvest did not match the numbers she had seen before. She said Yo had been changing small things slowly. Amma's patience broke. "Enough," she said sharply. Abina stepped back, shocked by the harshness in her tone. "You speak against him again and again. You question everything. Do you want this marriage to fail?" Abina's eyes filled with pain. "I only want to protect this home." But Amma no longer heard protection. She heard challenge. She heard rejection. She heard a girl who refused to accept her. That night, lying awake, Amma felt torn. Part of her remembered the unease in her chest when she first noticed Ya's behavior. But a louder part feared losing her place in the house. Feared that Abina would always see her as an intruder. Fear won. By morning, Amma made a quiet decision. She would not listen to Abina again. She would trust the one who supported her, the one who praised her, the one who made her feel strong. She chose Ya. And in doing so, she unknowingly began to close her heart to the only person who was truly trying to save her. After that day, Ya's place in the household changed. He was no longer just a helpful cousin who visited from time to time. He became a constant presence. He walked into the compound with confidence as if he belonged there. He spoke during family discussions. He advised Kofi on when to sell crops and when to store them. He even began keeping the small ledger where profits were recorded. Kofi, tired from years of hard work and recent pressure to prove his new marriage was stable, accepted the help. Ya seemed educated in business matters. He spoke smoothly and confidently. He made everything sound simple. Amma felt relieved. For the first time since arriving, she believed someone was truly on her side. But small cracks began to form. The harvest that season was good. The rains had been kind. Yet when workers came to collect their pay, there was less money than expected. Ya explained it away easily. Prices had dropped. Transportation costs had increased. A small loss here, a small expense there. His answers came quickly. Too quickly. Abina noticed the numbers did not match what she had seen in past years when her father managed things alone. She had grown up watching her mother carefully measure grain and count coins. She knew roughly how much should have been saved. Quietly, she began paying closer attention. She saw Yo meeting strangers near the market. She overheard him promising sacks of grain that had not been discussed at home. She noticed him slipping coins into a small leather pouch he kept tied beneath his clothing. One afternoon, while sweeping near the storage hut, Abina saw him remove a handful of cowries and tuck them away. He did not see her watching. Her heart pounded. That evening she approached Amma once more. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were serious. She explained what she had seen. She said the money was slowly disappearing. Amma's face darkened. To spy on someone in this house is disrespectful, she said. Abina felt her chest tighten. I'm not spying. I am protecting. But Amma no longer saw protection. She saw rebellion. She saw a girl who could not accept her authority. Ya noticed the growing tension and used it carefully. Later that night, he sat beside Amma under the dim light of a lantern. He shook his head sadly. I worry about you, he said softly. The girl speaks against me every day. Tomorrow it may be against you. Amma listened in silence. She is young, but she is clever, Ya continued. She may tell your husband that you waste money. She may turn him against you. The words slipped deep into Amma's fears. Already she felt compared to the first wife. Already she felt watched by the village. The thought of losing her husband's trust terrified her. Meanwhile, Kofi began to feel the pressure too. Villagers had started whispering about late payments and delayed supplies. A few workers complained quietly. Kofi, confused and stressed, leaned more heavily on Ya's explanations. He became quieter at home, less patient. The warmth that once filled the house slowly faded. Abina felt the distance growing between her and her father. She tried speaking to him directly once, but before she could explain, Ya interrupted, offering new calculations and new reasons. Amma stood firmly beside her cousin. Each time Abina spoke, Amma interpreted it as defiance. Each time Ya spoke, Amma heard reassurance. The emotional divide widened like a crack in dry earth. One evening, tension reached its peak. Kofi had discovered that a small amount of money meant for tool repairs was missing. He questioned Ya gently. Ya looked surprised, then thoughtful. He sighed. I did not want to say this, he began slowly, but I have seen Abina near the storage hut many times. The words fell like stones. Amma froze. Ya continued carefully. He said he once saw Abina counting coins alone. He said he kept quiet out of respect, hoping it was nothing. The room felt suddenly smaller. Abina, who had been standing near the doorway, stepped forward in shock. That is not true, she said firmly. But doubt had already entered the room. Amma's heart pounded in her ears. Her mind replayed every warning Abina had given. Now those warnings twisted in her thoughts. What if they were meant to distract attention? Kofi looked at his daughter, confusion clouding his face. Is this true? He asked quietly. Abina's throat tightened. She could not believe what she was hearing. The air felt heavy. And in that heavy silence, the seed of accusation took root. By the time night fully settled over the village, suspicion had replaced trust. And for the first time, Abina felt truly alone in her own home. The morning sun rose over the village, spilling gold across the red clay roofs. But inside Kofi's house, the warmth could not reach the hearts of those within. That day, a valuable sum of coins and a small sack of harvested grain disappeared from the storage hut. The workers who were meant to be paid arrived, waiting for their wages, only to be met with confusion and disappointment. Ya immediately stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. I saw someone near the storage hut yesterday evening, he said, eyes flicking toward Abina. Alone. Handling the coins. The words hit Amma like a stone. Her heart froze and a cold panic spread in her chest. Could it be true? The doubts planted over the past weeks now swirled into something unbearable. Abina's eyes widened in shock. I did not touch the money, she cried. Her voice trembled, but it carried honesty. I only check on things when needed. Amma, her face pale, swallowed hard. She wanted to believe her stepdaughter. She truly did. But the unease inside her had grown too strong. The fear of losing her place, of being seen as powerless in the house, whispered louder than reason. I think we have to tell my father, Amma said, her voice shaking. Kofi appeared, drawn by the rising voices. His eyes searched Amma's, then Abina's. He was a man torn between love, respect, and duty. What happened? He asked softly. The money is missing, Ya said, stepping carefully. I only saw her, Abina, near the hut. Perhaps it was a mistake, but the signs are clear. Abina's chest tightened. I am being blamed for something I did not do, she protested, voice rising but still measured. Please, father, you know me. Kofi sighed. He wanted to believe her, but the insistence of Yaw, the village murmurs, and Amma's fear weighed heavily. He looked at Amma, hoping for guidance. Amma, her hands trembling, nodded slightly. I think we must act carefully, Amma said, her voice low. We cannot ignore this. The house, everything, we must protect it. The elders were called. They arrived in their flowing robes, walking slowly with eyes full of judgment and curiosity. The villagers began gathering, sensing that something serious had unfolded. In front of everyone, Abina tried to speak, to explain, to plead. She raised her hands, tried to show the evidence she had gathered silently, records of coins she had counted, the places she had been. She spoke with sincerity and fear. But Amma, following the pressure in her chest, turned away. She could not meet her eyes. She dismissed the protest, believing she was defending her home, her marriage, her place in the household. The elders listened quietly. They weighed the claims. The villagers whispered. Faces stared, some curious, some judgmental. Finally, a decision was made. Abina would leave the house for a time, sent to distant relatives until the matter was resolved. She walked down the dusty path, her small bag slung over her shoulder, tears burning in her eyes. Her mother's memory felt as distant as the clouds above. She wanted to scream her truth, but no one was listening. Amma returned to the house, sitting silently beside Kofi. Relief mixed with unease in her chest. The immediate crisis was over, yet something heavy lingered. That night, as the wind moved through the baobabs, rustling leaves and low, warning whispers, Amma lay awake. She remembered Abina's warnings, the unease she had felt when Yaw first arrived. She pushed the thoughts away, telling herself she had done the right thing. But deep down, a small voice whispered, one she tried to ignore. What if she was right? Outside, the sky was darker than before, the first hints of a storm gathering quietly on the horizon. And in the house, a rift had begun that would only grow deeper with time. The house felt emptier than ever. The morning sun spilled over the courtyard, but there was no laughter, no chatter. The wind moved softly through the baobab trees, but even it seemed hesitant to disturb the heavy silence. Amma had expected relief after Abina left. She had thought the house would feel lighter, easier. But instead, unease settled in her chest like a stone. Every shadow in the corner seemed longer. Every creak of the floorboard sounded louder. Yaw's presence became more controlling. He no longer merely offered advice, he began making decisions. He told Amma which meals to prepare, which clothes to wear, even how to address certain villagers. His words were calm, almost caring, but each one chipped away at her confidence. Kofi, once the heart of the home, had become distant. He spoke less. He smiled less. His eyes, which had once softened Amma's fears, now held fatigue and concern. Sometimes he lingered outside the compound for hours, returning only when the sun was high, silent and withdrawn. Amma noticed small inconsistencies in the house. Coins missing from the jar. Grain bags shifted slightly. Tools misplaced. Each time, Yaw offered explanations that sounded plausible, but a growing whisper of doubt started stirring within her. Late at night, she sat alone by the fire, staring at the dancing flames. Her mind replayed Abina's warnings, the unease she had felt when Yaw first arrived. She remembered the careful way the girl had observed everything. The sharpness in her eyes. The quiet wisdom. Could she have been right all along? Amma pushed the thought away. Pride burned in her chest. She told herself she had done the right thing. She had protected her marriage, defended her place in the house, and stood by Kofi. But even as she repeated these words, a cold knot of regret had begun to grow. In the following days, the village continued to murmur. Workers complained quietly about missing coins. Neighbors asked carefully about harvest sales. Amma noticed the subtle glances, the curious whispers. Even the elders' smiles seemed a little less warm. One evening, as the sky turned orange and purple, Amma walked slowly around the compound. She ran her hands over the walls, over the furniture, over the areas Abina had once carefully maintained. Everything felt different, colder, more fragile. She realized that although the girl had left physically, her absence was deeper than she had imagined. The house seemed to mourn her presence. It mourned the trust that had been broken. Amma tried to ignore the feeling, but it grew stronger each night. Sometimes she thought she heard Abina's voice in the hallways. Sometimes she imagined seeing her at the corner of her eye. Yaw noticed her unease and subtly shifted the narrative. He leaned close in quiet moments, whispering that Abina was dangerous, that her cleverness had nearly ruined everything. Each word was like another brick in the wall separating Amma from her own clarity. Kofi, still silent, sometimes gave her a look of concern that Amma could not interpret. She wanted to ask him, to confide, to seek reassurance, but pride held her back. And so the days passed in a fragile balance. The immediate problem had been solved, but peace remained elusive. At night, as she lay on her mat, staring at the ceiling, Amma felt a quiet tension in her chest. A small, insistent whisper of truth kept nagging at her, truth she was not ready to face. Something is not right. Something has been hidden. The wind outside rustled the trees, carrying with it the faint sense of a storm yet to come. And inside the house, shadows stretched long across the walls, as though waiting for the moment when secrets could no longer stay buried. The calm after the storm was only an illusion. And Amma, though she did not yet know it, was about to face the consequences of what she had ignored. The first hint of truth came unexpectedly. Amma was walking past the storage hut one late afternoon when she noticed movement from the corner of her eye. A trader from a neighboring village, someone she had seen with Ya before, was crouched near the hut, speaking quietly and laughing. The words she caught made her heart tighten. They never suspect me. The coins are easy. The girl was foolish to warn them. Her hands froze. The world seemed to tilt slightly. She had to sit on the nearby log to steady herself. Ya's voice had been a constant comfort, a steadying force, but this revealed the truth. Later, inside the house, Amma could not stop thinking about what she had overheard. She walked to the corner where the small leather pouch had been stored and carefully examined it. A few coins, missing from the original count, were tucked inside in ways that only someone clever would know. Her stomach churned. Every small discrepancy she had ignored, every unexplained loss, every uneasy feeling now fit together like pieces of a puzzle. She went to the ledger and began flipping through the entries. Numbers didn't add up. Sacks of grain recorded as sold had never left the compound. Payments had been adjusted subtly, almost invisibly. Amma's chest tightened as realization dawned. Abina had been right. Ya had been manipulating them from the beginning. Every warning the stepdaughter had given her had been a shield against deception, one she had cruelly ignored. Her thoughts raced, memories of Abina's quiet, observant eyes flashing through her mind. How carefully she had watched. How calmly she had spoken. And Amma had dismissed her. She had punished her. She had sent her away. Tears ran down Amma's cheeks. She sank to the floor, head in her hands, trembling. What have I done? The weight of guilt pressed on her chest, making it hard to breathe. Kofi returned that evening, his face drawn with exhaustion and worry. Amma tried to speak, but no words came. She could only show him the pouch, the ledger, the evidence she had pieced together. Kofi's eyes widened in shock. He sank onto the chair beside her, silent for a long moment. Finally he whispered, I should have listened. His voice was soft, filled with regret. We all should have listened. Amma could not speak. She only shook, the enormity of her mistake crashing down on her. Outside, villagers had begun to murmur once more. The story had already begun to travel in whispers. The missing coins. The disappearance of harvest money. The subtle manipulation of the household, all slowly coming into light. Amma realized, with a sinking heart, that her error had not only hurt Abina but also tarnished the family's honor in the village. She thought of the stepdaughter she had punished. The girl had been brave, wise, and loyal, and Amma had treated her as an enemy. The night came heavy and suffocating. The fire in the hearth burned low, casting flickering shadows on the walls. Amma sat silently, staring at the glow, her hands trembling. She could hear Kofi moving quietly in another room, sighing, unsettled. The truth had begun to surface and it brought no relief, only regret, shame, and fear. Amma had destroyed the very person who had tried to save her. And as the wind whispered through the baobab trees outside, carrying with it the faint scent of the coming rains, she knew that nothing in the house, nothing in their lives, would ever be the same again. The girl she had sent away, the girl who had warned her, was the only one who could now restore what had been broken. And Amma, trembling with sorrow, understood that finding her would not just be a choice, it would be the only way to save her heart and her family. The days that followed were bitter. Ya vanished as quietly as he had taken hold of the household. The coins he had stolen were gone, along with some of the family's saved grain and supplies. The harvest, once promising, now left the family struggling to meet their obligations. Word traveled fast through the village. Whispered rumors painted the house as careless, even foolish. Respect, once given freely to Kofi and his family, began to erode. Amma felt the weight of it all pressing down on her chest. Every glance from a villager seemed heavy with judgment. Every passing whisper, every curious stare, cut her deeper than she expected. Pride, once her shield, now felt brittle against the tide of shame. Kofi did not shout. He did not raise his voice. But his disappointment was written in every line of his face, in the slow shake of his head, in the heavy sighs he could not hide. He had trusted Yah, and he had trusted Amma's judgment over Abina's warnings. Both had failed, and he felt the weight of it all. Amma could barely look at him. Her chest tightened with guilt so intense it left her breathless. She had caused this. She had driven Abina away. She had welcomed deception. She had allowed pride and fear to cloud her heart. Each evening, as she sat alone in the dimly lit courtyard, the enormity of her mistakes pressed down on her. The village's murmurs, the household's empty corners, the absence of laughter, all were reminders of what she had lost and what she had caused. She knew what she had to do. She had to find Abina. She had to make amends, though the thought filled her with dread. Would the girl forgive her? Could she ever repair the pain she had caused? The questions weighed heavily, but the need to act outweighed the fear. And so, with the first light of dawn, Amma prepared for the journey. She packed a small bag of essentials, careful to leave a note for Kofi explaining that she would seek the truth and try to restore what had been broken. The journey was long and exhausting. She walked dusty roads, crossed narrow streams, and passed through villages where strangers' eyes lingered on her with curiosity. Every step felt symbolic, a pilgrimage through her own shame, her own failures. Each mile she traveled carried a heavy mix of hope and fear. Along the way she replayed every moment in her mind. The first warnings from Abina, dismissed with pride. The subtle manipulations of Yah, accepted with trust. The false accusations, the elder's judgment, and Abina's quiet suffering. Each memory hit her like a stone, forcing her to confront the depth of her mistakes. Yet beneath the despair, a fragile spark of determination remained. She would find Abina. She would face her. She would admit her faults. And somehow she hoped there might still be a chance for forgiveness. By the time the sun began to set on the second day of her journey, Amma's heart ached with both exhaustion and anticipation. The path ahead was uncertain, and the outcome unknown. But one truth had crystallized in her mind. She could not undo the past, but she could try to make it right. The wind carried whispers of distant villages and new faces, of struggles endured and wisdom gained. And somewhere out there, Abina waited, stronger, wiser, and unaware of the storm that was approaching her life once more. Amma walked on, each step heavy with guilt, but driven by the hope that redemption might still be possible. Amma's journey to find Abina was not easy. She traveled for days, walking along dusty paths under the blazing sun and through villages where strangers' curious eyes followed her every step. She asked quietly about the girl she had wronged, moving from one family compound to another, leaving her pride behind at every doorstep. With each inquiry her heart beat faster, sometimes with hope, sometimes with fear. Finally, after nearly a week, she received word. Abina had been living with distant relatives in a village several miles away. The girl had endured hardship but had grown stronger. Word spread that she was responsible, hardworking, and respected in her temporary home. She carried herself with dignity, and strangers spoke of her with admiration. Amma's chest tightened at the thought. Could she truly face her? Could Abina forgive her after all the pain she had caused? She remembered the harsh words, the false accusations, the public humiliation. She felt a wave of shame so strong she nearly turned back. But she could not. She had come too far to retreat. She walked through the village quietly, asking for Abina, until a kind woman pointed toward a small courtyard where the girl was tending a garden. The sight stole Amma's breath. Abina moved with calm precision, her hands in the soil, her back straight, her eyes clear and focused. She looked like someone who had grown taller, not just in stature but in spirit. Amma approached slowly, every step measured. Her palms were sweaty, her throat dry. The words she wanted to say clung to the back of her mouth, heavy and trembling. Abina looked up. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Two hearts, separated by betrayal, grief, and time, faced each other. Amma's eyes filled with tears. Abina, she began, voice shaking. I have come to apologize. I was wrong. I should have listened. I can't undo the pain I caused, but I want to make it right. Abina's hands froze in the soil. Her eyes were wide, holding a mixture of surprise, caution, and lingering hurt. She said nothing at first, studying the woman who had sent her away so unfairly. The silence was long and heavy, filled with the weight of memory. Amma continued, her voice breaking. I let pride and fear blind me. I trusted the wrong person. I destroyed the one person who tried to protect me. I'm sorry, Abina. Truly, deeply sorry. Abina's gaze softened slightly, though her arms remained crossed. You hurt me, she said simply, her voice calm but firm. You punished me for speaking the truth. You turned my own father against me. Amma's tears fell freely. I know. I cannot take it back. I can only ask for your forgiveness if it is possible. I want to make amends. I want you to know that I see now. I see you. I understand your courage and wisdom. The wind whispered through the village trees, rustling leaves and carrying a soft, tentative sense of hope. The weight of the past hung between them, heavy and unyielding, but the possibility of healing began to glimmer. Abina looked away for a long moment, then slowly back at Amma. The garden between them seemed to shrink as tension and memory pressed closer. She spoke softly, it may not be easy. Forgiveness does not come instantly. Amma nodded, her chest heaving. I know. I am willing to wait. I am willing to do whatever it takes to show you that I am sincere. For the first time in many days, a small spark of relief entered Amma's heart. The journey was not over. The pain was not gone. But the path toward reconciliation, toward redemption, was now clear, and the next step would be the most difficult and most important of all. The confrontation. The day had come. Amma stood before Abina in the quiet courtyard, the soft rustle of leaves above them the only sound. Her hands trembled and her voice caught in her throat, but there was no turning back now. Abina, she began, taking a deep breath, I have no excuses. I cannot hide behind fear, pride, or misunderstanding. I was wrong. Completely wrong. I let jealousy and insecurity blind me. I punished you for speaking the truth, and her voice cracked, I have regretted it every day since. Abina's eyes, once sharp with caution, softened slightly. She remained seated, arms crossed loosely over her chest. You destroyed the trust between us. You accused me of things I never did. You sent me away from my home, from my father, all because you would not listen. Amma's shoulders sagged. Tears ran freely down her cheeks. Yes, I see that now. I see how my pride and foolishness caused you pain. I see how I let you manipulate me and I failed to protect you, the one person who was trying to protect me. I'm so sorry, Abina. From the bottom of my heart. Abina's gaze held her, steady and unwavering. Do you understand what that felt like? To be accused, humiliated, and cast out? To be the one who was right, yet punished for it? Amma nodded, choking on the words. I understand now. I was blind. And I know I cannot take back what I did. I can only hope that one day you might forgive me. The air hung thick between them. Silence stretched long enough to press against Amma's chest. And then, slowly, Abina stood, walking toward her. She stopped a few feet away, her eyes glistening but calm. You hurt me deeply, Abina said softly. But I have grown. I am stronger now. And perhaps there is a way forward. I cannot promise it will be easy. Forgiveness is not immediate. Amma's tears spilled freely. Relief and sorrow mingled in her chest. I do not expect it to be, she whispered. I only want the chance to show you that I have changed, that I can be worthy of your trust and respect. Abina looked toward the distant horizon, the sun dipping low, casting golden light across the courtyard. Your actions taught me one thing, she said quietly. Wisdom often comes from unexpected voices. I was ignored when I tried to protect what was right. You have learned that now. Amma bowed her head, overwhelmed with humility and regret. Yes, I have learned it the hardest way possible. I only pray that my actions now can honor that lesson and honor you. For a long moment they simply stood there, the weight of the past pressing down, yet mingled with a fragile hope. And in that moment, a small bridge began to form between them. A bridge of honesty, remorse, and the possibility of trust restored. The courtyard felt lighter, though the scars of the past were still visible. Amma reached out slowly and Abina hesitated, but did not pull away. It was not yet full forgiveness, but it was the first step toward healing, toward reconciliation. The wind moved gently through the trees, carrying the faint promise of renewal. And as the sun set beyond the horizon, both women felt the stirring of something long absent in the house, the possibility of restored love, understanding, and family. The morning sun rose slowly over the village, painting the sky with soft gold and pink. For the first time in many weeks, Amma felt a cautious sense of hope. The journey had been long, the confrontation hard, but the hardest part, the admission of her faults, was behind her. Abina had agreed to return home, though on her terms. She walked into the compound with quiet dignity, carrying herself not as a wronged child but as a strong young woman who had endured and grown. Her presence brought a hush over the household, but it was not the tense silence of fear, it was the calm of respect earned through courage. Kofi, standing in the courtyard, felt a mixture of relief and humility. His eyes softened as he watched his daughter return. He had been distant, worn by worry and disappointment, but now he understood. The family could heal if they allowed themselves to listen, truly listen to each other. Amma stepped forward, bowing her head. "Abina," she said softly, "I cannot undo what I did. I cannot erase the pain I caused. But I promise to do everything I can to earn your trust, to honor your wisdom, and to make our home a place of love again." Abina studied her carefully, then nodded. "I will give you that chance," she replied, her voice firm but not unkind. "It will take time and it will not be easy. But I see your heart now. I see that you have changed." The family spent the day together in quiet restoration. Amma helped Abina repair the garden she had tended, laughing gently as they worked side by side. Kofi supervised the repair of the storage hut, ensuring it was secure, while also sharing stories from past harvests with both women. The house began to feel alive again, not perfect, but whole in a way it had not been for months. Word of the family's reconciliation spread through the village. Neighbors, elders, and friends visited, offering congratulations and support. The whispers of shame were replaced with murmurs of admiration for Abina's strength and Amma's humility. The community, once poised to judge, now witnessed the healing that comes from honesty, courage, and forgiveness. As evening fell, Amma and Abina sat together beneath the baobab tree in the courtyard. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows, and the wind rustled through the leaves with a gentle, soothing sound. "I have learned something important," Amma said quietly. "That wisdom can come from voices we may not want to hear. That pride blinds the heart. And that love requires listening, truly listening, to those who care for us." Abina nodded, a small smile touching her lips. "And I have learned that forgiveness is a gift we give not just to others but to ourselves. Holding on to anger only keeps the heart heavy." Kofi joined them, placing his hands on both their shoulders. "Our family has endured hardship," he said softly, "but we have survived because we have faced the truth, accepted our faults, and chosen to rebuild together." The three of them looked out over the village. Children played in the distance, women laughed while preparing evening meals, and the scent of fresh earth and harvested crops filled the air. It was not just a new day, it was a new beginning. As darkness fell and stars began to appear, Amma felt a sense of peace settle over her. The house was filled with warmth again, not because the troubles had vanished, but because they had faced them together. Life, she realized, was not about perfection. It was about listening, learning, forgiving, and growing. And as the first gentle light of dawn promised a new day, Amma, Abina, and Kofi knew that the future, though uncertain, held hope, love, and the possibility of joy once more. The family had been broken, but they were healing. And in that healing there was redemption, and a chance to rebuild not just a house but hearts.